Well, I know for the Crawford County commissioners, AI is certainly something that's out there, but they're more worried about making sure they get the right parts to fix Scott Shell's typewriter first. Joining us this morning is Mr. Eric Henry. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, sir? Good morning.
Good to see you this morning. Where would you like to start this morning? There's a lot happening with the county, a lot going on, and already in the second month of the new year.
Well, this morning's a little icy in the county, but other than that, I appreciate the Zoom link today. We're heading into another election season. That just seems like that's crazy, but heading towards municipal elections. So there's lots of openings for tax collectors, judge of elections, supervisors, and things like that. So people should be looking at that if they're interested in running.
What's the deadlines for petitions and all of that stuff?
So the petitions are starting just in a few weeks, and so the second week in February is when you actually can get them. Then a week after that, you can circulate them, and it takes about 30 days to get them back. But they'll actually be on our website. You can print them out there. You can also get them from your local supervisors or townships. We're actually going to send it to their building. So if you're out in Oil Creek or eastern half of Crawford, you don't have to drive over here to get it. You can actually going to get it from your borough or your municipality as well.
This is the first time for doing that, then?
Yeah, I think we've actually this year decided it's a good thing to maybe reduce people's travel time, especially with the bad weather we've been having, of course, lately, might help people out.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay. And then I guess if they have any questions, they can call the courthouse for more information.
Yeah, they can call our election director, Justin Lynn McFarland, and they can set you up with, showing you the actual access to it. There is actually printing instructions that'll be on the website too, because it's a two-sided form, so they want to make sure you do it the right way. But they'll get you through that process.
I haven't even looked at primary this year. Is when?
May. I'm trying to look at the day. I think it's May 20th, I believe. I'm looking at my calendar. I think that's the right date, or May 27th. You're talking to the wrong commissioner for that. That's Commissioner Seeley. He'll take that thunder next month for you, or wherever he's here. So.
All right, that's fair. What's sort of the game plan for you for this year? I know there's been a lot of conversation with our service folks in our county, and is that something that is still up there in terms of importance? Getting volunteers, figuring out some of those missing pieces, the cost of things.
It's very important still. And again, that's an everyday thing. I always tell the other commissioners, like the experience I learned from Chris and Francis is that you have to work every day at what the future looks like, not only just the budget, but if you don't do those kind of things in February, in the fall, the budget becomes a process and an issue that you can't handle, and you'll have to raise taxes. That's a success for us, is to continually work on that every day.
Are there concerns where things could pop up early in the year like this, and as you're saying, you go, oh yeah, let's just fix it, we'll worry about it later. You don't really want to do that. You don't want to get to September, October and go, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, there's a couple things. A good example, the Judicial Center just had to replace an $11,000 air handling unit. That's not in our budget, and we have to. You can't not go without it. You have to do it. But that unit only lasted from 17 to 25. I mean, some of the units on this courthouse were 30 and 40 years old, so we didn't get much use out of that. So we have to pay for that, and that's just something that comes up.
And that's something that. Boy, every city, every township, borough has to deal with these things that pop up, especially when budgets are so tight. And I know you get to the end of the year and you go, we passed the budget, we made some cuts, we made some tough decisions, but you never know when something like that comes up, or leak in the roof, or a busted pipe, or furnace goes down, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got to take care of this versus that project we wanted to get started on.
That is the truth. I mean, the jail roof was a little over $1 million. Last year we finished that project, but it has to be done. You can't ignore those things. So good budgeting for me is when you actually end up doing that, and you plan for it. You put some reserve away. We have repair funds we put away into our budget that we can use. But those things sting a little bit when you have to go through them.
You talk about these races that are coming up that are extremely important. People should be excited about getting out and voting for your friends, your neighbors, people you may know. These are the things that really impact us the most, or maybe the most quickly. They're so important, and I know we say this all the time, but usually those numbers are a bit lower when it comes to voter turnout. What advice do you have for those folks who kind of sit it out instead of really still, be remain active in local politics?
I tell them it's very clearly, if you think about it, there's actually three entities who can raise your property taxes: the local municipality, the school board, and the county. And so for me, I've always voted those races as the most important to impact me. I always vote on presidential, of course, but when you listen to the media, the national media, if you every day you think, oh my gosh, how is that going to impact me? It really doesn't. Your taxes, your federal and state fees, and how they even at the state level are different. But your property taxes, you see that real number in front of you every year. And so, yes, the supervisor you have running your township is very important. Are your roads done right? Are your, is the plowing correct? All those things the township does. It's a very important, thankless job, by the way.
Hmm.
But they can raise your taxes. And I tell people, I don't understand why people sit it out, because that's how it can really get your bottom line and affect your pocketbook.
How much are you paying attention to what goes on at the state level and the federal level when it comes to potential funding or changes that could affect Crawford County?
So I pay attention to a lot of it. I actually oversee the human services division of the county with our great staff we have over there. And to be honest with you, we that's a partially funded. So there's federal, state, and local dollars in there, and all the time we're advocating for more money. But the problem is the state will say here's a number of ratio for a mandate for a caseworker, but they don't give us the money to pay for it. And so at the end of the day, I watch it a lot, because that funding is important to Crawford County. Otherwise, that does fall on the local taxpayers, and that's also something that people have to pay attention about. So it is very important to look at that.
How much of that is something that you can argue against to say we don't have that in our budget or we can't, find the money for that? Or are they coming to you saying, here it is, you have to figure it out?
Well, I mean, similarly, just as you think about like a reassessment, there's a bill out there now from a state representative that wants to have reassessments done every 5 years. I don't know if the bill did have some discussion about how to pay for it, but a small Class 6 county to reassess every 5 years, it would be an expense that they were not expected, and so that would fall squarely on the taxpayers again. My thoughts about reassessment as it is. I think property tax reform is something all state reps have ran on but have never done, and that's pretty sad, because there are alternate ways. I mean, people tell me all the time that why are my taxes going up? And I say, well, there's certain things we're required to do. If we don't have the funding from the federal and the state government to do that, it does fall on us, and that becomes a challenge.
Talk just a little bit more about that, because I think there are people that over the last handful of years have been pretty vocal about some sort of reassessment. Maybe you can restate your views on this.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that you can't still go in and try to, argue or claim that you should be paying less. I mean, you can pay, those fees if you want to have that done.
Yeah, a reassessment. We've actually been challenged by the city of Meadville. That is a public knowledge information. I am not voluntarily doing it because, first of all, as I've said, there needs to be property tax reform. At the end of the day, when you own your home, you should feel like you own your home, but you don't feel like you own your home. And I pay a lot of taxes. My wife and I have an indoor horse arena that my daughter can use. It's a fairly large structure. It's expensive, and I pay a lot for it. And so I tell people, I said, I have no problem paying that, but at the end of the day, when you own your home, you're still paying taxes. And there's people out there, especially seniors, who want to just stay in their home as long as they can, who are burdened by taxes. And so is there values that are off kilter? Like you said, sure. You can come into the appeals board, which we meet, and you can challenge that, and you can have your taxes lowered. Some people are, as you know, the standard is a third, a third, a third. Some people, after a reassessment, a third of the people's taxes will go up in some variable degree. Roughly a third will go down, and a third will stay the same. That'll cost the county, 5, 6, now probably $7 million as we go. But I have implored to state representatives and state senators that you go back and look at your pamphlets when you ran. You ran on property tax reform. So look at other states. How are they doing it? How are they handling property taxes? In Crawford County, I think in Pennsylvania especially, people want to have property tax reform. Everybody talks about it. It's not a county function, but reassessment, of course, it's money we don't have set aside. We don't have that money for, and so that's why my advocacy is more for the reform of the process than what we currently do.
Is there ever a situation where somebody comes in to argue to lower their property tax, and you look at it and you go, actually, you should be paying more?
Actually, there is, and to be honest with you, the appeals board at the time, they'll say to them like, make sure you get an appraisal, make sure you get a value, and when they're telling they're telling them, if you want to continue this hearing and you provide this information you're going to provide, yeah, there's a potential you can actually pay more in taxes, and that's obviously something that they don't realize. So
Yeah.
the thing is, you can't look at your neighbor's house and compare everything. That's not how the actual assessment of a house goes.
Yeah, those accidental projects on the weekend where you didn't get a permit and all of a sudden it
Right.
adds value to your.
Listen, there's a lot of places that don't give permits. There's a lot of buildings you don't find. We've done a pictometry, which is an air flyover several years ago, which actually it was an expense for the county, but it paid for itself in the amount of properties that they found through the actual flyover, and that was several years ago.
Wow. What challenges do you see that the commissioners are going to be facing in 2025? What are some of the top things that that you're going to this is going to be the year to take on this project or this thought?
So the very first thing, which all your private sector people will also tell you, is we actually have a workforce challenge here. Some of our people that on the higher end and professional levels are being picked off by other entities because they're paying more wage. The county worker, three things on a stool are for your benefits. The health benefits here are great. You have a pension mandated by the state that we have for people, but wages, people can make more money in other places, and so we really got to look at that as a whole, because we lose administrative staff by people trying to hire them somewhere else. That's what life is. I mean, I own an ambulance service. It's the same challenge. You lose people to other ambulances who offer different wages or different benefits. The government's no different. And so one of our number one challenges this year is to look at our administrative pay to make sure that we're at least somewhat competitive, because we can't afford to lose an HR director or a chief financial officer. If we lose those people, what that job will be posted at will be much higher than what we're currently at. So we're reviewing that now. We have put a lot of time into that.
What about in terms of technology? I know I think I was just watching the recent episode of the French Creek Cog and communication equipment. You talked about broadband services. Technology is also playing a role in making sure it's in the budget, making sure it's helping people in Crawford County. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
I thought you actually watched our meeting yesterday, because there actually was a policy brought up to us about AI, and so I find that interesting. But
I haven't,
actually is.
I do watch. I just haven't had a chance to catch that one yet.
So there's actually a policy discussion about AI at the commissioners meeting. But as far as technology goes, we're still working on broadband, and our application for broadband through a nonprofit coalition of counties will be going in the next 24 to 48 hours. And it's a lot. It's a big ask for a lot of money. But it has the great thing about it. There's no property tax involved with it. There's no taxpayer expense involved. It's actually funded by revenue bonds and the federal BEAD money for Interbit. So we are still pushing through, trying to get that done. That's really important to us. It would systemically change this county for years to come, because the actual system itself would be one of the fastest internet providers in the Commonwealth. And I think it's important for people to realize that. Now, of course, not everybody likes that application, of course, but we're trying to do what's best for the county, especially for rural providers. So.
You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream TV and on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel. Crawford County Commissioner Eric Henry with us here this morning. I think Chris Seeley was talking about maybe new radios for emergency personnel as well.
Yeah, so, and Scott can talk to you more about his next time around. But so we're trying to look at a P25 digitally compliant emergency radio system. Our system is analog, and the suggestion by the experts is that you go to digital, which is more efficient and better coverage. We put an RFP out. We got one quote, unfortunately. Whenever you get one quote for a large project, which is $15 million, it makes you wonder why there's only one quote and there's nothing to compare to. The commissioners looked at that quote. We realized it was a lot of money, something that we would really it would put the county back financially for years. And so now we're looking at an alternative plan as well, which is looking at using the state tower system the state police have through StarNet, it's called, and that would eliminate tower rentals and costs that would be recurring and help us cover that cost. And so that's our next alternative. But even if the radio coverage is important to us, we also can't put the county in peril. I mean, we can't say, well, we'll just spend $20 million, which it would have been estimated to be, and here you go. At the interest rates now, everybody knows interest rates are high. That's a large payback for several years for a radio system. As an ambulance person myself and a paramedic, I certainly want the best radios for my providers. So if they need help, they can get help quickly. But I also know that we have to pay for it somehow. So I think that's a good balance of what a commissioner does, that whole process.
I followed an ambulance the other day from one town several miles into another town to assist with something. And I thought of all these conversations you've had over the last however many years, however, all the hours and meetings discussing this, still no closer to a real solution. This is, and not just a problem here in Crawford County, but all over the country.
Yep. Nationally. Yep. I will say I don't like to always just beat up state legislators and senators, but I will say that they did increase the Medicaid rates a few years ago. That was a huge, tremendous help to help compensate our providers. And that was, if not for that, many services would have closed. There's no doubt. Now what we're facing is a workforce issue. You want to get people into paramedic class. It's a long-term commitment. And in order to get paid and compensated, well, a new provider wants to see, is it worth it to do that? So we still have those discussions. We still have an EMS commission who works on those things. But we're at the point now where the commissioners realize that, 3 and 4 and 5 years from now, just 5 years from now, the number of volunteers will be diminished, and you're going to get less service. You're going to see more ambulances traveling 30 miles, 35 miles to do an assist, or actually worse than that, pick up the patient themselves. That's too long for obviously a heart attack or a stroke or things like that. But it is something that is certainly coming down the pipe.
People may need to start taking CPR classes or brush up on their CPR just to fill in the gap there. When it comes to our volunteer fire departments, you guys have said this number several times, and it's just mind-blowing that we've gone from, 300,000 volunteers to 30,000? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yep, it is. And I always tell people, remember, though, it's not just I don't want to just say it's just public safety. It's churches and, how many Rotarian clubs and Lions clubs, how many have been closed or are struggling to find volunteers? A lot of it's not people. They like to jump on generations, and I don't like to jump on generational discussion. I actually want to talk about the population decline. There are less people to volunteer. I mean, it used to be 90,000 people in Crawford County. Now there's 82,000. We're projected to be under 80,000 in the next 5 to 7 years. So less people, and they're aging too. Remember, a lot of these departments, Cochrane has a 74 and a 70-year-old who covers during the day. I talked to them both. I blessed them both. Said, "Good gracious, you guys are wonderful." But I don't think I could do this at 74. They're responding to fires. They're responding to car wrecks. The 74 and a 70-year-old in Cochrane are responding to lift assists. Let that sink in for a minute. And those two individuals that I've known for my entire EMS career, very dedicated, very passionate, but not many of us at 74 may be as willing to do that. And that's a problem. I mean, Scott leaves here on a regular basis because he's young. He's 65, so 66. Wow. So he leaves because he's the younger guy, he says. So, it's a problem.
Yeah. And, you start thinking about what you just said with the service clubs, and, you've got the same people that are sitting on, a number of boards, trying to help out in a community. So when somebody's like, "Hey, you want to volunteer?" Well, I don't have time. I can't. I'd love to support you, but I'm sitting on 6 other seats right now. And
exactly. Same people. Yep.
Same people. Switching to the fairgrounds. Obviously, let's just talk quickly. A lot of people get excited about the fair. And again, a lot of people think only 1 week out of the entire year that place is utilized, but it's used year round.
It is the schedule. If I had to tell you, take the winter months away, because obviously nobody wants to use it in the winter. And
but we store things.
Yeah, we store there in the winter. It's probably 75%, 80% at capacity, especially on weekends. We have some anchor tenants, I call them, like WPRD, which is a horse. It's a horse group that has shows, gaming shows there on four times a year. We have 4-H who practice there all the time. Of course, the fair. I will say that the fair is looking at some changes this year. They're looking at maybe some entertainment, bringing back some entertainment again. And they're meeting tonight. That they meet twice a month. And it's funny when you go to the meetings, they'll say, "Oh, by the way, the fair is now 6 months away." And when you think about that, it's like, whoa, I mean, that's what happens, right? But they're doing a good job. We have a great fair board. We're working well with them. They netted a profit last year, which is
Excellent.
very important. They netted a profit, like that's important. If you take the projects that they actually funded, minus their net, they probably netted around $100,000, but they put some money back into the fairgrounds, which is also important. But that's the most important thing is that word profit. They actually netted a profit, which doesn't happen very often, and I'm proud of them because it's a lot of challenge for them to do so. But they're looking for help. They're looking for extra volunteers to do things. So the fair is important.
Yeah, when it's only 6 months away. And
Yeah.
I'm sure the day after the fair closes, they're having conversations about, okay, here's what went
They
right.
do.
Here's what we need to.
They have an after action report. They meet in September, and then they meet every month after that. And they're very committed to what they do. Dean Maynard's the president. He's really doing a good job organizing the folks he has.
Crawford County, still a great place for a company to look to invest, a business, grow a business.
Absolutely. I mean, the values, the actual things that make Crawford County wonderful to me are still there. And I think that they should look at Crawford County as a place to be. You hear a lot of negativity on social media. A lot of people drive that negativity. That's sad for me because at the end of the day, if it's that bad, like I always tell people, like find a better place for yourself. But this county is special to me. I've lived here my whole life, and I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be, honestly. So.
Are you ever involved in conversations with those who kind of help market this area?
Yeah, the Visitors Bureau, they actually invite the commissioners to their meetings. We can't make every one of them, but Victoria Dixon does a great job with that, and they do try to market different things. They always keep us apprised. They give us all their information what they spend on their budgets. Of course, that's the hotel tax they use. So we appreciate that. But she does a good job keeping the forefront, the county's name in the forefront of other places.
Crawford County Commissioner Eric Henry joining us this morning. Good to see you. All the best to you.
Nice to see you. Stay nice and warm over there, okay?
We'll do. Give everybody our best.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.